Hi everybody, this is Mrs. Miller and I'm here to give you an instructional video about our Google Sheet project for Chapter 4. This is a project where you're going to design a spreadsheet that calculates the average daily balance, as well as the finance charge and the new balance for a credit card statement. So we're doing this project instead of doing section 4.3 in the book. Section 4.3 talks about the average daily balance, but they want you to calculate it all by hand. And that's really time consuming because you have to find the balance for every single day of a month. And if months have 31 days in them, we don't want to write it out 31 times. So I'm going to show you a shortcut, and we're going to use Google Sheets to help us do this. Okay, so we'll use a calculator or a computer program to help us. So just like before, you're going to open a Google Meet. You're going to open Google, and then you're going to make sure that you're logged into your school account. And then you can just go to the little 9 dots and click on Google Drive, and then you're going to create a new Google Sheet. Okay, so here's Google. Make sure your school account is signed in. So if you hover over your picture, it'll be your school account. Click on the 9 dots here, and then click on Drive, and it will open your Drive. And then you can go to New, and then Sheet, and a new sheet will pop up. And I'm just going to close out my Google Drive tab so I don't have so many tabs open. Now, on the directions, it said to title the spreadsheet. So we're going to title it Average Daily Balance and then your name. So click on Untitled Spreadsheet, Average Daily Balance, dash, and then your name. I'll put Mrs. Miller for me. And just hit Enter. Okay. Also, if you have a lot of stuff in your Google Drive, you can star it. So if you put a little star by this one, it'll go in the starred category, so it makes it a little easier to find. But obviously, if you put everything in the starred category, then that's not helpful. But that's a little tip. You can star it or unstar it, whatever you want. Okay. All right. Next, we got to read our situation here. Okay. So here we have Jade and the credit card statement for August. Okay. So there was a previous balance of $108.15. And then 4 days later, there was a purchase of $56.89. And then 5 days later, there was another purchase, $61.88. 4 days later, there was another purchase of $190.23. And then 11 days later, there was a payment. Okay. So when we're finding the average daily balance, we need to know the daily balance for August 1st, and then for the 2nd and the 3rd and the 4th. Those weren't shown, but we would have to, if we were doing the books method, we would have to write all those out. And the balance for those days is going to be the same until Jade makes another purchase. Okay, so basically I'm going to show you a shortcut in the Google Sheet where we can just take this balance here for this day and multiply it by the number of days that that balance is on the credit card. Okay. And then they do tell us that Jade's credit card company uses a 19.2% APR. So that's the percentage rate. So we're going to have to take that and we're going to have to divide it by 12 to find the monthly rate. And then we're going to have to divide it by 365 to find the daily rate. Okay, so that's what it says down here in Part A and Part B. It says, assume the company uses a monthly periodic rate, and then also assume that it uses a daily periodic rate. So that's what we're going to use the 19.2% for. Now, the average daily balance method is right here, this formula. Okay, we're going to take the sum of the daily balances, and then we're going to divide it by the number of days in the billing cycle. So we've got to find the balance for each day, so all 31 days in August, and add them all up. So again, if we were doing this by hand, that's going to take a long time to add up those numbers, all 31 of them in a calculator, and not mistype anything. That's really tedious. Okay, so we'll use a computer. That's why we have computers, to do the boring math projects and the boring calculations for us. Okay, So I put a little note here to remember that there's 31 days in August. You could always Google that too if you're trying to do homework and it's a certain month and you don't know how many days there are. You could look at the calendar app on your phone, or you could just type into Google, how many days are there in August? And Google will tell you. You could probably even ask Siri or Alexa. Okay, now what we're going to do in our Google Sheet then is we're going to get this all set up. So we've got to put some headings in first. So we're going to have our date, the transaction, and that's what was listed above. Okay, right there, the previous balance and the purchases. And then we'll have the balance at the end of each day, and then the number of days, and then the sum of those daily balances. And since there are headings, we're going to make them bold, and we'll adjust the column width as we need. Okay, so I'm going to go to my Google Sheet now, and this first column here, we'll type in date. The next one will be transactions, and then balance at the end of the day. Now there you can see that when I was typing that in, it went over into the next column. So I'm just going to adjust my width there before I start typing the next one. That'll be number of days. That's a little small too, so I'm just going to scooch that over and give it a little more room. And then we'll have sum of daily balances. Okay, and we'll scooch that over as well. Okay, then I'm going to highlight all of them. So if you just click on A1 and then drag the mouse over, you can highlight all of them and hit bold one time. And then sometimes when you make them bold, that makes the letters bigger, so we might need to adjust our columns again. Okay, there we go. So that step is done. There's step 8. Okay, next for number 9, we're going to enter in all the dates. Okay, the dates were listed up here: 8/1, 8/5, 8/10, 8/14, and 8/25. And we're going to type them in just like they're written here, where we have the month, and then the backslash, and then the day. So let's type in 8/1. The backslash on the keyboard, that's the question mark. It's right by the shift. Okay. And then we'll have 8/5. Just hit enter after each one. 8/10, and Google will automatically align it to the right side of the column there. And 8/25. Okay, so there's our 5 days. And then we're going to enter in the transaction amount. Oops. Okay, so step 9 then. We did that. Step 10 says enter the given transaction amounts. Okay, so again, those are listed here. So if you're doing this on your own, you can pause the video, you could type all of those into the columns. All right, now when you type these in, don't put in the dollar signs, just do 108.15, and then when you hit enter, Google will auto align it. So 56.89 is the next one, 61.88, 190.23, and then 150 was the payment. Okay, now the first 4, those were purchases, so we're going to have to add those to the balance. This last one of 150, that was a payment, so we're going to have to subtract that. Just keep that in mind. That's coming up down the road in the future. Okay. Now our next step then, I'm going to scroll back to our directions here. In column C, we're going to program each of the daily balances. So in cell C2, it's going to be the same as cell B2 because that was our first transaction on the credit card. So it's going to be the same for the daily balance. So this one right here, B2, this 108.15, I can just click on that cell, click on the little blue square and drag the rectangle over. And now my balance at the end of that day is right there. Okay, and we'll worry about the number of days in a moment. Okay, okay. Next for 8/5, this purchase, okay, in cell 3, we have to add that purchase amount. So we're going to click on cell C3 and we're going to type equals, and then you should be able to click on C2 and then do plus, and then we're going to do B3 and hit enter. Okay. So let's go to C3 and hit equals. And then you're going to click the cell above it. So that's C2, and then to plus, and then click on B3. So we want to add that new purchase to the previous balance. Okay, so there's our new balance. Now we would keep doing that for 810 and 814. So you could type all of them in, but since we're just going to be adding the new cell to the previous, we can click on this blue rectangle, click on the square, and then drag it down. So we get those totals for the other 2 days. So we can use our shortcut there. Okay. And that's in the directions here for cells C4 and C5. But for the next one, this was a payment, so we're going to have to subtract it. Okay. So we're going to click on the previous cell in column C. So we're going to click on C5. Okay, and then we're going to subtract the 150. So that's what's going to go into C6. So in C6, type equals, and then up above, click on C5, do minus, and then click on B6 and hit enter. And there's your total. Okay. So now we just have to figure out the number of days that these transactions were on the credit card for. So at 8-1, this was our balance, and that was the balance for 8-1, 8-2, 8-3, and 8-4, because then on 8-5, there was a new transaction, okay? So from the 1st to the 4th, that's 4 days, so we're just gonna type in a 4 there, okay? Then this transaction on the 5th, this is our new balance then, the 165, and that was our balance for the 5th, the 6th, 7th, the 8th, and the 9th. So that's 5 days. So I'm going to type in 5 there. Then on the 10th, there was a new transaction. So this was the balance on the 10th, and it went all the way up to the 14th. It didn't include the 14th, though. So it was there for the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. So that's 4 days. And then from the 14th up until the 24th, we had a balance of $417.15. So you could count that out, the 14th through the 24th. That's actually going to be 11 days when you count it out. I know 24 minus 14 is 10, but you have to count the 14th as well. So it's kind of like you're subtracting the numbers and then you add 1. Okay, so then after he made the payment, then this balance of 267, that's going to be the balance on the 25th and the 26th, 27th, the 28th, the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. So that's 7 days. So you can count those out on your fingers. The book would want you to write this out for 8-1 and then also write in 8-2, 8-3, 8-4, and then put this balance down for each of them. So this would be 31 days listed here. And that's just way too long. If this balance is going to be the same balance for 4 days, we can just multiply them, okay? So that's what's going to happen in our 13th step here. We're going to multiply, okay? So we're going to go to cell E2, and we're going to type equals, and then we're going to click on C2, that's the balance, and then we're going to multiply it. So we'll have to type the little star, remember that's Shift 8, and then we're going to click on D2, which is the number of days. So here in E2, I'm going to type equals, I'm going to click on C2, and then I'm going to do Shift 8 to get the little times, then I'm going to click on D2, and then hit enter. So if we had this balance for 4 days, this is the sum of those balances for the 4 days. Now we're going to repeat this for the rest of the columns. We're going to take this cell times this cell and put our total here. So it doesn't matter if they were purchases or if they were payments, we're still taking the balance at the end of each day and multiplying it by the number of days. So we can do that shortcut where we click on the cell, click on the square, and then just drag the whole rectangle down. And that'll fill in all of the totals for us. Okay. So we're done with step 13. Now we're on to step 14. And this is just where we're going to get the sums of the number of days and then the total daily balance, because that's what we need for our formula. If I scroll back up, we need the sum of the daily balances. So I've got to take that big total for each individual day, and I've got to find the whole total for the whole month. Okay. So we're going to go to cell D7 and we're going to add up the number of days. Now we're going to use our sum program that we've used before, and this is where you have to actually type in the letter and the number. You can't click on the cell, and it's going to put a colon in there as well. Now Google might pop up some little helpful hints for us. So let's see what happens here. We're going to type equals sum and then the parentheses. Now you can see that Google popped up with a little suggestion. It wants me to sum D2 to D6, and that's actually what I want to do. So if that pops up on your screen, you can just click on it and hit enter. Otherwise, you need to type it in, okay? And then we're going to do that in column E as well. So go to E7, type equals, and then it pops up a suggestion as well. We want to sum E2 to E6. Why, yes, I do want to do that, Google. Why, thank you for that very helpful suggestion. Now there's my totals. So I'm going to make those bold just so I can identify them really easily. We're going to need those totals for later on when we're calculating our monthly and our daily periodic rates and our finance charges. Okay? All right, so that programming went really, really fast. Okay, so now we're going to set up our monthly and our daily periodic rates. So we're going to make another little area on our sheet where we're going to have some labels. So we're going to label the periodic rate, the average daily balance, the finance charge, and then the new balance. Okay, these are what we're hoping to do. Find the finance charge and the new balance. That was the goal. If I scroll back up here for part A, it says find the finance charge and the new balance. Okay, but we have to do that for a monthly and a daily periodic rate. Okay, so we're going to get that part all set up now so we can have the Google Sheet do the math calculation for us. So I'm going to go to cell A10. That's just a suggestion. You could go further down. Just if we go to A10, it leaves us a little bit of room. Okay, so A10, I'm just going down a couple, leaving a couple cells there before we start our new labels. So the first one is going to be periodic rate, and then average daily balance. The mouse out of the way. There you go. Daily balance. And again, we can adjust the column width here. Do that after I finish typing things in. Then we have finance charge and new balance. I always think of the shoes, the brand of shoes when I type that in. Okay, now I'm going to adjust column A so that it goes over a little bit past the average daily balance. I'm going to highlight all of these. I'm going to make them bold just like we did before. Okay, so there's all of the labels for the information that we're going to have in each row. And then across the top, we're going to label one of the columns monthly and one of them daily. So the first one here will be monthly, and then the next one will be daily. And again, I can make those bold just so I know that they're headings. Okay, so we're all set. So that was step 15. Okay, now in step 16, we have to use the information that they gave us in the situation. So according to the given information, our APR was 19.2%. Okay, so we're going to have to make that a decimal first. So right here, there's that decimal. We move the decimal to the left 2 places, we get 0.192. And then we're going to divide that by 12 because we're dealing with our monthly periodic rate here. And there's 12 months in a year. Okay, remember the A in APR stands for annual. So this is the rate for the whole year. We just want it for 1 month. So we're going to take that decimal of the percent and we're going to divide it by 12. So this is going to go into B10 for our periodic rate. Okay, so I'm going to go to B10 and I'm going to type equals, and then we're just going to type in the 0.192 divided by 12. And Google will make the decimal for us. Okay. All right, now we can also do that for the daily as well. So in the cell or in the row that was right to the right of that, we'll type in 0.192 divided by 365. So we're going to go to column C. So it's the cell right next to the one that we just were typing in for periodic rate. And we're going to click on the cell C10 and then hit equals. And then we'll do 0.192. That was our annual percentage rate. But now we're going to divide it by 365 because there's 365 days in a year. Now Google is going to give you a whole mess of decimals. And as a math teacher, I love to see that because the more decimal places you have, the more accurate and precise your answer is going to be. The book wants you to just round this to 0.00526 and then stop right there. So that's going to chop off your calculations. It's either going to make them too big or too small, depending on the situation. So I like that Google leaves lots of decimal places in there, just like your calculator. Okay. All right. Now for our average daily balance, we have our total for the month here up in E7. We bolded that previously. And now we're going to have to divide that by 31 to get our average daily balance. So this is our total. You divide it by the number of days, that's your average. You all know how to find averages, okay? So that's the next step in our directions. In row 11, okay, we're going to have to take what is in E7 and divide it by what is in D7, the number of days. And here we should be able to click on the cells. Okay, so I'm going to go to my average daily balance for the month, and I'm going to do equals. Then I'm just going to click on E7, which was bolded. I'm going to divide or do the little backslash, which is the question mark again. And then I'm going to type on D7, which is the 31, and then hit enter. So there's our average daily balance. So that's the number that the book needs for this average daily balance method. So we had to do all that work just to get that number, okay? So I know we're kind of going slow as we're putting this into a spreadsheet, and probably you wouldn't do this. You could, but most of the time the credit card companies do this, but they have computer programs that do this. Nobody does this by hand. So that's why I wanted to do this in a Google Sheet instead of having you do it all by hand. Now we're going to do the same thing again for cell C11 because we want these numbers to be the same. Okay, so I'm going to type equals, I'm going to click on E7 and then divide by, and then click on D7 and hit enter. So those numbers are supposed to be the same. And again, Google gives you lots of decimal places. Now, if this was money, we would round this to 20 cents. Okay, so that's fine, but Google's giving us the extra decimal places, so it's going to be even more precise. And that's probably what the credit card company would do too. So that's okay if we've got lots of extra decimals there. Okay, now we've just got our finance charge and our new balance. Okay, a couple more steps. In row 12, we're going to find our finance charge. And to find the monthly finance charge, we multiply the average daily balance by the monthly periodic rate. So basically, we're going to click on the cells that we just found, and we're going to go to B12, we're going to type equals, and then we're going to click on B11, which is the average daily balance, and then we're going to multiply it by the periodic rate, which is in B10. Okay, so we can do more programming here. So we're going to go equals, click on the one above it, and then do Shift 8 for the times, and then click on the rate up above. Hit enter. There you go. There's the finance charge, $4.45. Because again, if we were rounding it, we would just chop it off there. We don't have money that has that many decimal places in it. And we're going to do the same thing here for the daily. We're going to type equals. We're going to go to the average daily balance, which is the cell above. We're going to do times shift 8, and then we're going to click on the periodic rate, but it's the daily periodic rate. So that's C10, and hit enter. Okay, and that's not the right number because I forgot one step. So we're going to click on that cell again. Before I hit enter, I have to multiply this by the number of days. So times 31, and then hit enter. There we go. Okay, so let me click on that cell again, and up here in the little FX box, you can see I did C11 times C10 times 31. Okay, so that'll get us $4.54. So the daily periodic rate is a little bit higher than the monthly periodic rate. So if you are a credit card company, you probably want to charge people the daily rate, but if you're a consumer, you probably want the monthly rate, okay? So that way your finance charge is a little lower. Okay, so don't forget to multiply by the number of days there, okay? All right. So last step, we're going to find our new balance. So the balance then is just going to take your average daily balance. Oh no, it's not. It's going to take your balance at the end of the month, and then it's going to add the finance charge. Okay. So we're going to have to go back up to the cell C6 right here, 267.15. That was our balance at the end of the month, and then we're going to add the finance charge for the monthly and the daily. Okay. So we're going to go to the monthly new balance. Okay. So that's cell B13. We're going to hit equals, and we're going to click on C6, and then we're going to add the finance charge. So it's the monthly finance charge, so that's B12, and then hit enter. There we go, $271.60. And we can make that bold. That would be the new balance. Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing for the daily periodic rate. So we're going to hit enter. We're going to click on the balance that we did up above, C6, and then we're going to do plus, and then we will do our finance charge, and then we will hit enter. There we go. I'm going to make that bold as well, and that's our new total. So you can see the totals are very close, very similar. Really, it's only a difference of about 9 cents if we rounded, okay? So you might be thinking, it's not that big of a deal. It's just 9 cents. But that difference, if you did that every month for year after year, that could add up to a lot of money, okay? And it's probably a low amount right now because we've got a low total, a low balance that we're dealing with. If the balance was higher, then that difference between those numbers could be much greater as well. So you can bold your balances, and then you could also bold your finance charges if you'd like, because those were the 2 pieces of information that we were trying to find. Okay. And then I do have a little note here about what your spreadsheet should look like. And then, of course, remember to save this. Well, Google saves it automatically, okay? And then you're going to upload your file to Canvas. Last time we had some issues with the link, okay? So we'll try and do the file upload, and then it should just open automatically in Canvas for me. So when you're going to submit your work, just upload the file and make sure you select the correct file, select your sheet from your Google Drive. Okay, so make sure you have the sheet that has the right name on it. We named it the average daily balance. Okay, so that's the sheet that you need to upload. And it'll be worth 20 points, just like the other projects. Okay, and this can be a little tricky, so watch the video. You can pause it, you can stop it, you can go over it multiple times. And if you have any questions, let me know.